Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. This is part 5 of Revell's cruiser ship AIDA, scale 1 to 400. In part 4, I concentrated on placing in the bow cabins. In part 5, I'm going to the opposite end of the ship and concentrating on the stern cabins. So let's jump into this and see how I get on. To begin with, I'm using Revell Aquacolors 15 yellow for the decking of the stern cabin. This is painted in very much the same way as the bow, practically in every little step. And then moving on to 79 greyish blue for the inner parts of the cabin. The piece I'm putting in here now is the doors for the cabins at the bottom, so there's no clear parts that go in here. And the section above it is made up completely the same way, and that just gets placed on the location points. The location points, as you can see, there are just these parts sticking out that help to make up the actual side wall of the cabin. I'm using Revell Aqua 90 Silver, and this is for the metal support struts that run along the railings of the clear parts. Now, it's a very small area you're painting. You're going to need a very fine brush if you decide to do this. There's nothing wrong with leaving it absolutely clear, because the plastic is a little bit thicker there, so you can tell the definition of the support bars. I just like to paint it in. It's all personal choice. And now I'm going to show you a different technique that I use for diffusing the lights and changing the colour. What I've got there is a piece of the plastic bag that the parts come into, and I'm simply going to paint it. So in this case, I'm painting it yellow. Now, it's going to be uneven, it'll pick up scratches along the way, but that's all okay, because it's going to add to the shadow and depth of the window that you're creating. So it's back to the ship and the stern, and I'm placing in the handrails and safety rails at the back of the ship. Now, the one I'm placing in here at the grey area, this is for the crew members only, so it's not as decorated as the other parts of the ship will be for the passengers. The passenger part is the clear plastic part, so I'm using some Canopy Glue here. And if you're not sure why, this Canopy Glue, there's many different ones on the market, will enable you to bond the clear plastic part safely without fogging it up. If you use normal cement, it can fog up clear parts. Now, there is a way around that. You can let the fumes disappear before you bond the two pieces together, but it takes slightly longer time to do that, but it does create a good bond. The Canopy Glue takes longer to dry, but you will not get any fumes harming the clear plastic. So there's pros and cons to each cement that you use. So just do what works for you. But to be on the safe side, I would recommend using the Canopy Glue. So that's the first safety rail in for the passenger side, and now the last part placed in. Now these fitted really well. There is a little trough that runs around the edge of it, so they just sit in, so you don't have to worry about trying to hold them upright. It should just fit in. So then it's back to the cabin, and I'm putting on the top part now. This just forms the ship's hull ridge that goes around the cabins. So do know this, it means I have to put in some more lights. This time I'm placing the strip of LED on a piece of plastic card, just to give it a bit more stability before I place it in. So as you can see there, it's the width of the support unit that it's going to be sitting on. And once I've wired it up, I can place it in. Now these lights are only going to be for the bottom part of this of the cabins. More lights will be going in to illuminate other parts of it, but as I said before, just add your lights at stages as you go along, so you're not getting confused. You know exactly where everything is, and it's just a progression through the lights. It's as I said, it's simple to do. As you can see there, the two bottom lights are illuminated, the top ones aren't. And the reason I done this is now I'm going to be using my little painted polythene bag. So I'm just cutting it to size, and I'm simply pushing this down at the back of the unit in front of the lights. And as you can see now, it diffuses the colour and also changes the colour as well. So you're not getting such a harsh light coming through. And once that's in place, I'll just simply glue it in place and trim up any excess. It's now time to fit the unit. I've also added another strip of 3 LED lights to go along the width of the ship, just to give me a little bit more light as I'm building it up. And how I'm deciding this as well is I'm dry fitting it and covering it up, then lighting it up and seeing how much illumination I have. If I feel that I need a little bit more, I shall add some more lights. If it's too much, I'll diffuse some of the windows, and it's just trial and error as I go along. And then once it's in place, I'm just connecting the two wires. Now this is what I was on about, making sure you know where your lead lines are on your wires, and they're clearly accessible so that you can join them up to your main run of lights. It makes it easier when you're doing it, so you're not trying to dig in and pull wires and dislodge and things like that, and I will just make the wires not work. I'll just break your connection, your circuit. So I can't stress this enough. If you're doing this, make sure that you know where your leading wires are coming from and where they're going to. It's onto the top decks now, and the initial colour is 15 yellow, as you can see here. Now the main top deck I won't be putting on for a little while, but I'm just starting to prep this now. The smaller part you see there is the stern deck, top deck, which will be going on soon. And because this is the top deck, I'm using Life Colours LPW19 with dark shadow. This is again to change the tone of the yellow and give it that wooden effect. Decided to do it on the yellow at the top deck because these parts are going to be what are mostly exposed to the elements, so it will be a lot darker than the cabin decking. So as before, with this decking and wash, I'm applying it so that it does have streaks in it. This is deliberate. It's a good technique if you want to simulate a wood effect. Now going back onto the main deck, I'm using 382 wood brown Revell aqua colour, and this is for the steps leading down to it. For the central part, it's 310 Lufthansa yellow, so it's just a different shade of yellow that I'm using for this part. Now I've looked at some photographs. Some of them have this as blue, some of them have it as a grey colour. I would imagine it all depends on what cruise liner is actually operating the ship, how they decorate it. So I've decided just to go on the colours the instructions are calling for. And it's back to the stern deck, and I'm just placing in the I think it's the viewing gallery windows, this particular part. The clear part goes into the housing first of all. The support bars have all been painted in a silver colour, which I done later on, and now I'm just building up the support brackets and walls for the actual deck. And once more I'm using my Canopy Glue just to secure it all into place. So in the end I decided to change the colour to light blue, so it's 50 light blue that I'm using here, and I'm only changing this section of the main deck to this colour. And then it's back to the stern deck and placing in the main window. This was quite tricky to get in. It has to go in at an angle to fit onto the ship. So this took a lot of dry fitting to figure out exactly what angle it should be in. in the end I found out it was easier to actually place it on the bottom part of the stern deck before placing the deck on itself. The instructions call it to go on beforehand onto the part and then drop it into it, but this way is better. So now I'm going to be putting in more lights, but I need a stable platform to do this. So like the little 3 LED lights I put in before, I'm just making up a little area for them to sit in using some plastic art. Now these LED strips are going to be soldered slightly different from how you've been seeing me doing it. The basics of soldering are the same, but I'm just soldering different points on the LED. So what I mean by that is I've soldered down the strip of LEDs to about the 4th connection. Now this is one reason why I like these LEDs. They enable me to have different points where I can have different LEDs shooting off from it, because every 3 parts of the LED strips is a new contact point. So this enables me to add some 3mm LED bulbs into the mix. Now the reason why I'm doing this is to place these bulbs inside areas where I need that extra bit of light and where the strip just doesn't fit, or having 3 in LEDs and light there is far too bright. So it's just a simple case of soldering on to the metal contact points, then adding on my bulbs. The only thing you have to remember is making sure that you have the positive connected to the positive and the neutral connected to the neutral. Self-explanatory, common sense you may say, but you'll be surprised at how many times you do it that you get it the wrong way around. So now I've got all the connection that I wish on this little run of LEDs. It's time to place in the strip, and it just sits underneath where the stern is going to be, the stern deck, and then it's got the other end is underneath the midsection, and this is where the 2 3mm LED lights are going to be sitting as well, inside that little midsection. So after a little bit of hot glue, I just simply push these bulbs in and just hold them for a couple of seconds until they set, and that's all there is to it. There's not much else to fit in these LED bulbs that I can say that I haven't previously gone into before. And now for the important part, I'm taking my lead wires and threading them through the bottom of the ship. I'm just using my paint stir to do this. I've taped on the wires and just pulling them through so that, again, I know where my lead wires are coming from, and I've got enough room to work on the next section. The next part, however, is a little bit tricky. To connect your ring up on this one, I'm having to solder within the ship. So I'm making sure that none of the solder is going to drip off onto the model. This can be very tricky, and this is one of the reasons as well I had a bit of plastic card running down the lights so that I knew I had a stable base to work on. And once I'm happy with it, I'm going to be doing a simple light test. As you can see, it's all very bright. That the camera does wash out the light quite a lot at this stage, but it will all calm down once the decks are on. So now is the time to fill in the stern deck of the ship, and this just pushes in onto the bracket, then into its housing at the back there. I am going to need a clamp just to hold this in position. The back of it is slightly warped out a little bit. Now I don't know whether that was because of me or poor positioning, probably a little bit of both, but it's not a drama. It is a simple case of clamping it up. You can just hold it if you wish, but I want to get onto the next part. I'm also going to put a clamp onto the middle section as well, just to stop that from warping out, and just in case it was me that actually did that. And this brings it back to the bow and the lights, which have been wired exactly the same way as the stern of the ship. So as I put the last of the LED strips in for this section, this will be a good time to close the video. If you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other videos, or including for this build, of course. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of any upcoming build that I have, or include updates for this one, of course. Hit that like button, and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.